Leave It to Beaver is a timeless classic that still resonates with audiences today, and one of its most memorable characters is Eddie Haskell. He was polite, well-mannered, and ready with a compliment. At least that's how he was with every adult he encountered, but you always knew Eddie Haskell was up to no good. A TV critic once called him the most fantastic jerk on television, and actor Ken Osmond brought that mischievous teenager to life. Kenneth Charles Osmond was born to Thurman and Pearl Osmond on June 7, 1943, in Glendale, California. His father, Thurman, was a carpenter and a prop maker, while Pearl was a stage mom whose goal was to get Ken and his brother Dayton into acting. Pearl began taking Ken to auditions when he was only 4 years old and enrolled him in acting classes, which he attended every day after school. In those early years, Ken made several appearances on popular television shows, including The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, Lassie, and Circus Boy, which is the show that gave future monkey Mickey Dolenz his television start.
Anyone who doesn't do his job will never again be allowed to enter that sacred portal. Let's go!
In 1957, when Ken was 14 years old, he attended an open casting call for the upcoming family sitcom Leave It to Beaver. Ken auditioned for the role of Eddie Haskell, a character for which he will forever be remembered. However, his casting wasn't immediate. He had to go through several callbacks as they narrowed down the field, and eventually they correctly chose Ken for the role. Even then, it was only supposed to be a one-episode guest appearance. And that's hard to believe, because I can't imagine Leave It to Beaver without Eddie Haskell. So thankfully, the creators recognized the brilliance of Ken's portrayal of Eddie and rethought the character. Eddie Haskell was a master of disguise, adapting his personality to fit the situation at hand. His interactions with adults were perhaps the most intriguing aspect of his character. While he exuded politeness and respect in their presence, often addressing them with yes sir and no ma'am, his true colors shone through in the absence of authority figures. Some of my favorite moments from the show involve Eddie's interactions with Wally and Beaver's mom, June. Eddie always gives June these superficial compliments, like, "Well, isn't that a lovely dress you're wearing, Mrs. Cleaver?" And I love how June's demeanor would change in response. She would dryly say, "Thank you, Eddie," and even drop her voice lower than usual to deliver the line. It was perfect every time. And Barbara Billingsley always played the role of June flawlessly. Ken became part of the supporting cast, playing Eddie in 97 episodes throughout the show's original 6-season run. Ken served in the U.S. Army Reserve during the show's final years. He was granted leave to film episodes, and in exchange, he made personal appearances for the Army Special Services. Ken reprised his role as Eddie in the 1980s reboot of the new Leave It to Beaver. In the reboot, Eddie is now a grown-up and married with 2 sons who have inherited their father's insincere nature. In a radio interview conducted in 2008, Ken expressed his difficulty finding work outside of his role as Eddie Haskell, which led him to be typecast, and it dried up the acting work. Ken got married, bought a house, and wanted to start a family in 1969. He needed a stable job, so he joined the police force. In 1970, Ken became a motorcycle police officer. He grew a mustache and tried to remain unrecognizable to the public, even though his fellow officers knew precisely who he was. In 1980, Ken was chasing a suspected car thief and was shot multiple times. And thankfully, Ken was wearing a safety vest, which is the only thing that saved his life. Ken retired from the police force in 1988. In the 1970s, a college radio station interviewed singer Alice Cooper. And during the interview, Alice was asked about his behavior as a child, to which he replied, "I was obnoxious, disgusting, a real Eddie Haskell." However, people took this as fact. The college newspaper misquoted Alice as saying that he was the real Eddie Haskell. This incorrect quote made people believe that Ken Osmond grew up to be Alice Cooper. And to dispel the rumor, Alice actually wore a t-shirt that read, "No, I am not Eddie Haskell." Ken was a devoted husband and father. He married his wife Sandra in 1969, and they remained together until Ken's passing. They had 2 sons. Ken was also an author. In 2014, he co-wrote his autobiography, Eddie, with Christopher J. Lynch. He also wrote Above and Beyond, True Stories of Real Heroes. Ken was nothing like his most famous character, Eddie. He once said, "If people don't hate me, then I'm not doing my job." Ken passed away at his home in Los Angeles on May 18th, 2020, due to complications from COPD. He was 76 years old. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this sort of content, please subscribe. And if you have a favorite Eddie Haskell memory, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.